This is Aaron Hops with Rhinebeck School of Music, and in this video we're going to talk about the minor pentatonic scale and how to practice it. So the minor pentatonic scale is a 5-note scale. Penta means 5, so it's a 5-tone scale, and it's derived from a minor scale. So there's different types of pentatonic scales. There's the minor pentatonic, there's the major pentatonic, dominant pentatonic. Topic can get so deep into like superimposing different pentatonics over different types of chords. But for now, we're going to keep this very simple. We're just starting with the basic minor pentatonic scale, where it comes from, and how to practice it. So the minor scale in A has 7 notes, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So that has a root, a major second, a minor third, a fourth, a fifth, a minor sixth, a minor 7, and an octave. So here's our A minor, A natural minor, or Aeolian. If I take away the major second and the minor sixth of that scale, this is what I get. A, C, D, E, G, back to A. I get a 5-note scale, and that's the A minor pentatonic scale. So now I've omitted the major second and the minor sixth, and what I have is root, minor third, fourth, fifth, minor 7, octave. Has a definite bluesy sound. So the reason why this is kind of the go-to for guitar players is, number one, if you listen to a lot of blues and rock, that's probably what you're hearing the most is the pentatonic scale. Also, it's just easy to play because it's got 5 notes instead of 7. And it's easy to apply because we've omitted the 2 tones in the scale that are probably the most tense and create the most tension. And now we have all these notes that are kind of almost foolproof. They're easy to, they're more friendlier notes, so it makes it easier to play for beginners. So also the cool thing about the minor pentatonic scale is even though it's a minor pentatonic scale, which means you can play it over a minor chord. So say I'm playing this A minor chord and I have my A minor pentatonic. It kind of fits like hand in glove. I can also play it over a major chord. So here's an A major chord or an A dominant 7. So it's pretty versatile. So blues is sort of this mixture of major and minor sounds, which is why that works. It also works in classic rock and many other styles. So a scale by itself is not music. Scales are really just guide rails to show you, okay, these are the notes that you can play in a certain key or over certain chords, and they're going to work. The process of making music from a scale can be long and daunting. But even my students that just play chords, if I have them playing different scale exercises, they gain dexterity in their hands and in their fingers and flexibility. So it's kind of like a fitness routine when you're practicing scales. You have to build up, the flexibility. You have to be able to stretch. You have to build up the strength in your hands, in that vice grip, pressing down with enough pressure, doing bends, things like that. So you really need to be in good shape with your hands to be able to pull that stuff off as a lead guitar player. But even if you don't want to be a lead guitar player, practicing these things are going to help your chord playing, particularly your bar chords and other things that you're trying to technically pull off. So here's my overview of how I take my students from just playing a scale to actually making music. So the first thing you want to do is get your scales down, get the patterns down. So I'm talking about the key of A. So A, C, D, E, G, back to A is my A pentatonic scale. And you have to figure out where all those notes repeat along the fretboard. So we know that this is pattern 1 here, starting on the root. And I'll have all these, available for patrons. So that's my pattern 1, but since there's 5 notes in the scale, you start each pattern on the next note of the scale. So if I start on the root, I have this root position pattern starting on the A. Then if I start on the minor third, which is C, I get my next pattern, pattern number 2. Then if I start on the D, which is the next note in the scale, I have my pattern number 3. And And then if I have my E note, which is the next note of the scale, I have my pattern number 4. And then if I start on the G, which is my next note of the scale, I have pattern number 5, and then I'm back to pattern number 1. So the reason why you want to do that is so that you can play around the fretboard. You know, you don't always want to be in one position all the time, but a lot of guitar players do that. They'll learn pattern 1, and they won't go anywhere else, and they just know riffs in pattern 1, and it's very limiting. So that's the first step. Eventually, your overall goal should be able to play in any key, all 12 keys. In music, you want to be able to play your pentatonic scales, but you want to pick one key first just so that you can see how they all connect, and then you can start playing them in different keys. So I'm going to do a more in-depth video on this concept next. This is just sort of like my overview. So the next thing is you want to practice with a metronome. So when you practice this scale, you want to practice in different divisions of the beat. So like quarter notes are a good place to start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Just playing along to the beat until you get the scale down. Then you want to try to play that same scale with eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Then triplets. 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and 16ths. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a... So that you can practice phrasing in different ways. So when you practice with a metronome, you want to start on a slow tempo until you get the pattern down, and then you slowly increase the speed of the metronome, and that's how you build speed. Next thing you want to do, after you've learned your patterns and you're getting really bored of just ascending and descending the patterns, is you want to combine them into different note patterns within the scale exercises. And I have a bunch that I'm going to talk about in upcoming videos. This one I'm just starting with 2 notes and repeating them, going higher, coming back, and I'm doing that on every string. And you can come back, or doing fourths, doing different types of intervals. So I'll talk about those more in depth, different exercises you can do to sort of break out of your pentatonic box a little bit. The next thing you want to do is learn different riffs of songs or simple melodies or solos that use pentatonic scales in music. So there's a ton of classic rock that you can learn that just has, you know, basic pentatonic melodies that'll get you going. And there's also a ton of very basic, easy pentatonic solos that you can start with to start soloing and start breaking out of the box and learning how to phrase. So I'll talk about those as well in upcoming videos. And the other thing you want to do is just practice using your ear and your creativity and your intuition by practicing to backing tracks, which are easy to find on YouTube, or use a loop pedal. A lot of my students have loop pedals and they just kind of tape a progression, just keeps repeating, that way they can solo over top. You know, if you have a friend to jam with, they can play like a basic blues progression or a basic chord progression, so you can practice soloing. Or you can just create your own and just tape them however you want in GarageBand or even on a voice memo on your phone. It's that simple. Just something that you can hear that you can sort of play along to. So like in E blues, like we've talked about, just a 12-bar blues, simple chord progression, or an A blues, and then just practice your scale. You know, and just take a few notes out of the scale and just sort of mess around and improvise and have a little fun. So this is just an overview of, you know, the things that I do. It gets so much more in depth than that. But these are the basics of starting to take a scale and learning how to make music out of it. So I'm going to go over each of those points in upcoming videos, and I'm going to talk about, you know, how to really practice that stuff and demonstrate it more thoroughly. And later on, we can get into the really fun stuff. But anyway, hope you've enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, visit www.rhinebeckschoolofmusic.com and subscribe. Become a patron, www.patreon.com/rhinebeckschoolofmusic. I'll see you at the next one.